So it is 9:30. So I think it's time to go. We have Angelique in the back end. She is admitting people that have registered. So fantastic. Thank you, Angelique. And I know that I've got Andy Reinecker also online. And there's Andy at a beach somewhere.
Hi, everyone.
The idea is that this is a conversation. So hello, Andy. Nice to see you. Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen, and if Angelique, if you could stop sharing that screen, then we will be good to go. Excellent. Andy, you can see the screen, eh?
Yeah, all good.
Excellent. So today we're going to
bandwidth reasons.
Just say that, Andy, you're switching your video off. Okay, no, that's fine. You just stop me whenever you want to ask a question. I mean, this is a conversation, and Andy's got the task of stopping me from talking and turning this into a conversation over the next half an hour. So what
I may say, John,
yeah?
just to everybody else, if you've got a question or comment, please put it into the chat box, and I'll try and manage those and make sure that John gets to hear them.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, so Andy's not only going to be asking me questions, but she's going to be monitoring your questions, so that yeah, we make this a meaningful 30 minutes. So welcome everybody. I'm going to unpack the Minister of Higher Education's determination that came through on the 24th of December last year. And what I've done is I've actually got the determination here in a PDF form. I know it's not very sexy, but it really, so I'm not, there's no interpretation. I'm trying to give it exactly as it says. And I'm going to highlight some things. So the first thing I want to highlight is it came through on the 24th of December last year. So it was our Christmas present, and it's a determination. So, you know, there are debates about, you know, people from Pretoria making these laws without really consulting. But in fact, yeah, it is a law. It's what the minister determined. And so from the 25th, from Christmas Day last year, this determination kicks in. And what it's about 3 sub-frameworks that comprise the NQF. And it's with effect there from the date of this notice. So again, the 24th of December, the rule changed, and we need to understand what this determination says so that we understand the rules going forward. And there I also highlight that it repeals anything from the past. So you can't say, oh, but you know, this is a determination, the rules changed on that day. And so it's important for us to understand what this means for all of us in skills development in South Africa in the post-school system.
A question there, John, haven't we seen this before? I thought that these sub-frameworks have been in place for a while. Or will this become apparent as we talk through this?
Andy, that's an excellent question. Yeah, so some of you might agree with Andy. And in fact, the minister had a previous determination which enabled the sub-frameworks for Umalusi and for the CHE. But some of you might know that in March last year, the QCTO issued a new sub-framework for trades and occupations. You'll also know, if you monitored that, by around about September, they had to withdraw it because, in fact, the minister hadn't issued the overarching revised determination that would then allow the QCTO to publish a revised OQSF, Occupational Qualification Sub-Framework. So what's happened now is the minister's gone and done that, and now the QCTO is busy tweaking the document that they had to withdraw, and it should be published pretty soon. It certainly will be published this quarter. Andy, does that make sense? Or hopefully it will make more sense as we go.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, cool. So on the first page there, it really says that this is a termination in terms of the NQF Act. And the only thing that is not the only thing, what I want to say is in that second line there on the right-hand side, you'll see it talks about a single integrated system. And these are therefore sub-frameworks of a single national qualifications framework. And the reason I highlight that is, in fact, you'll see later on the sub-frameworks have to articulate with each other. It's not three separate sets of rules and nobody cares. It, in fact, is three sets of rules that have to integrate into the single national integrated system. And many of us that have been in the system for a long time will know that that's not as simple as it sounds at all. In 1.A, B, and C, it just says that there'll be three sub-frameworks, one for Umalusi, one for the CHE, and one for the QCTO. And in 2, it says that these quality councils, because we know Umalusi, CHE, and QCTO are quality councils, they will develop and manage its sub-framework and make recommendations to the minister in terms of Section 27E of the Act. So the point here is that the QCs must develop and manage the sub-frameworks, not SAQA. And that's one of the subtle changes here that has happened. And in terms of, in the same paragraph, we'll see that in Section 27F of the Act, must be done in consultation with SAQA. Now, some of you might say, well, why is John emphasizing in consultation with SAQA? And then they advise the minister on matters. And so, as we know that there have been struggles between the QCs and SAQA, and in fact the CETAs and DHET. And so what I like about paragraph 2B is it says that the QCs can't just do their own thing. Ultimately, they have to consult with SAQA. SAQA has this overarching responsibility. And then once they've consulted, they advise the minister on what they want to do within the same framework. And so that's where the QCTO is now. This determination has been determined. 24th of December happened last year. The QCTO is busy finalizing the revised new sub-framework for trades and occupations. They are consulting SAQA right now. I know I was at a meeting last week where I heard of that, and hopefully soon the new QCTO QSF will be published. And then, yes, Annie?
Just a question there, if I may. Do you believe this gives SAQA more influence over these quality councils? Because the consultation SAQA has been in place for a time, if I recall.
Yeah, look, no, in fact, Andy, that's an interesting question. And I think the answer is no. And I know this is a John opinion. It's not an ASDSA opinion either. And I used to work at SAQA, people will know. So I'm sorry to my SAQA colleagues. It remains a situation where the parties have to consult. SAQA doesn't have that, and SAQA would have liked to have, but doesn't have that overarching power to say, well, I hear what you're saying, but this is the way it's going to be, and then forcing a QCT, one of the QCs down a particular route. So no, I think it's, in this regard, it's a little bit similar to the past. And in fact, if I have to give an interpretation to it, I think this determination gives the QCs a little bit more authority than they had before. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Interesting.
Oh. Okay, so here is the crux of the sub-framework. And again, I apologize, it's not a pretty slide, but it is in fact, straight PDF from the published document. And let's go through this and see what it says. So on both the left-hand and the right-hand side, you'll see two little blocks, NQF sub-framework stroke quality council. So we know that it's the three sub-frameworks and the QCTO, CHE, Umalusi, easy. Then the first sub-framework is the one on higher education qualifications. It's called the HEQSF. So another one of those acronyms we got to know, HEQSF. And the CHE, the Council of Higher Education, is the QC, the Quality Council. I know this is jargon, but I repeat it because we just, as people in this industry, we got to just know this language. And there you'll see level 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this HEQSF higher education qualification sub-framework that has been published for quite a while. There's nothing new here. So if you are a provider registered with the CHE, you could offer a level 5, a level 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 qualification. And there you can see the naming. Before we get on to the QCTO, which is, the big change, just to also say that Umalusi, which is the Quality Councils for the Gen FET sub-framework, I'm not going to say the whole words, level 1, 2, 3, 4. Some of you will know that some time ago, Umalusi also operated in the level 5 space. This determination says, Umalusi, your area is level 1, 2, 3, 4, and the National Senior Certificate, we call it matric. Matric isn't a legal term, by the way. I think that's quite an interesting thing. We all talk about the matric, but it's the National Senior Certificate is level 4, and so is the NVC, the National Vocational Certificate, or the National Certificate Vocational. So that's Umalusi, not to talk too much. And then here is what we've got to get our heads around. So at level 1, all the way to level 8. So I know the QCTO, always said, oh, but we can go to level 10. And the theory is, yes, you could have a qualification in the OQSF at level 10, but the minister has maintained his view, and this has been a view for many years, since 2009, that the QCTO should operate between level 1 to 8. And that's really the focus that he wants to give. So what do we see? We see at NQF level 1, General Occupational Certificate, and it is general. And you look at the Umalusi and you see General Certificate. And so this is where, the big change or the big realignment is. So the only difference now is the word occupational comes into all the names of the new QCTO qualifications that will be registered in the NQF. So general, elementary, intermediate, and national occupational certificate. And I think it's very important for us to just stop and ponder this for a few seconds, because there are questions like, does my qualification that I got a NQF level 4, which is quality assured by the QCTO, is it the same as a matric certificate or a national certificate NQF level 4? And we don't have time for all those conversations. We're going to cover it's called parity of esteem. We'll cover parity of esteem in one of the weeks ahead, but you'll see. So the wording's the same. And then you look at the higher education space, in the CHE, they talk about higher certificate, advanced certificate, and then advanced diploma at level 7. And then you look at the QCTO, the naming is higher occupational certificate, advanced certificate, or occupational diploma. So they're also allowing for, and so what I hopefully is as you look at the slide, because as I'm talking, I hope your eyes are looking at, you're starting to see that the naming of the qualifications, there are lots of similarities. So it goes back to my opening sentence. It's a single integrated national qualifications framework with sub-frameworks. And so what the QCT has done is it's changed the naming of its qualifications to, well, not the QCTO, what the minister has done. I apologize, because this is a top-down, but of course, from the advice from the QC and consultation with SAQA and other QCs. So is the realigning, so it provides for better articulation between the sub-frameworks. Okay, so, debates that we will come down the line. Well, I have an advanced diploma, an advanced occupational diploma as quality assured by the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations, and I want to go and do a qualification in the CHE space. Will I be allowed access to do a honors degree? Probably not, but quite possibly a postgraduate diploma. If you can see then the articulation between. Okay, so we can always come back to the slide if there's questions. Andy, I must check in with you. It's supposed to be a conversation. Any questions that you might have on that page?
I guess the question that's going through my mind is maybe one you can't really answer, but it's this. So I see that it looks like the titles of all of the qualifications that we're familiar with, the new ones, are going to change. It has the potential of being very disruptive, because at the same time, people might say, well, we need to rethink the qualification. We're not just going to change the name. Or am I being alarmist?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. And then, in fact, there's a journey. And as we unpack the determination, we'll see that journey is not a slow walk. It's going to be a sprint. There's a journey from, let's call it the old SACWA qualifications, which if we just take level 4, which we probably all know quite well, it used to be called an FETC, and then it would have banking or general management or whatever, So those are now going to become national occupational certificates. There's also, we know the OQSF is aligned to the OFO. So the title of the qualification, it will be a national certificate, national occupational certificate, but it will need it won't be banking, ING, it will be banker, KER. So there are quite a few things that are coming down the line, and we just got to get ourselves ready for the changes that are coming. A point I want to make, though, is if somebody achieved a unit standard based qualification, last year or many years ago, or even in this transition phase, that qualification will still have value, and it will still be uploaded onto SACWA's National Learner Records database. And so, people aren't going to, we're not killing the old qualifications. We're not going to rename the old qualifications, but from the dates, and we'll unpack the dates just now, the new naming conventions come into play. And the old names have to stop. And it's not just simply changing the name of the qualification, because all of us will know that the QCTO model is fundamentally different to the old SACWA model, the unit standard based model. We've now got a 3-component plus an ESA model in the QCTO, but we're going to unpack that in other weeks. So, okay. The other thing down at the bottom there, Andy, I just wanted to highlight to you is a determination by the minister is that a qualification has to be 120 credits or more. So
yes,
there was a lot of debate about a qualification. Where did this 120 credits come from? And why can't it be 50 credits? Why can't that also be a qualification? And after lots of conversation, the minister is determined, and so the debate is over. So let's get over the debate, and let's see what, if anything has got a less than 120, it becomes a part qualification. So let's rather understand that. Okay, Andy, I don't know, is that
yes, but I mean, that's Charlene's raised a question. There are QCTO qualifications that are currently registered with 42 and so on credits. How will this, what happens then with a 42 credit qualification?
So, and again, I'm talking from John's point of view. I was fortunate to be in a meeting with some QCTO officials and some SACWA officials and some CETA officials last week. And this question was raised, and I'm not naming who those people are because I don't want to, but the view of the room, which is, the consensus of the room is those qualifications will become part qualifications, and what QCTO and of course the community, the qualification development community, will have to, in due course, contextualize that part qualification as part of a full qualification. So the full qualification has to be developed. There's another debate going on. Some of you might have listened to Stephanie Allais at QCTO at a workshop about 2 weeks ago, and Professor Stephanie Allais, who's the advisor to the minister, was one of the speakers, and she was making the case for saying, really, does a part qualification have to be part of a full qualification? Can it not stand alone? And so I'm just sharing that with you because it's information. And so the answer might be that all that will happen is the QCTO will continue having that currently called qualification from the date of the determination, probably renamed part qualification, but it will probably stay there. I don't think it's going to go away.
So just to confirm, what I'm hearing you say is that those smaller part qualifications will still be available and they will still have reasonable credibility in the eyes of, say, an employer.
I'm again, it's a John view. I'm very convinced that is true. The other speaker at the QCTO conference was Professor Peliwe Lolwana. Some of you will know Peliwe was the first CEO of Umalusi. She was the CEO and then the chair of the QCTO, so she understands the QCTO model well. And now she's just been appointed as the chairperson of SACWA. So Peliwe is somebody who knows, and her opinion is important. And Peliwe was making the important point as well, that there is a place for part qualifications or skills programs or short courses that are also recognized. So my view, but I'm anticipating, is when the new OQSF is published in the next couple of weeks, we will see a space for that. But I can't promise, but I'm very confident.
And then Sylvia Hammond's also got a question asking for clarification. If this is effective in December, but the QCTO isn't immediately ready, what is there a transition timing, and is there a government gazette out around this?
Okay, so hi Sylvia, and in fact we're going to unpack the dates now. So this determination sets out the big time frame, and that was my point I made earlier. We don't have a lot of time. Let me go. No, I think let me just Sylvia, I'm going to get to that, Andy, in terms of timing. So what this does is on the 24th of December last year, the minister determined, so it becomes law. Boom. Now the CHE, smooth running operation. Umalusi, not a problem. QCTO has to quickly revise its, again, its new OQSF. Particular thing it has to deal with is a qualification is 120 credits, and therefore it has to make and to get the wording right to allow for skills programs or anything that is, say, only 20 credits. And I think that's what's taking the time. Otherwise, they would have just published it. But yeah, let's get to the dates. So these are the most important things that the minister is saying. And it's not just the minister, it's not Blade, okay. I mean, there's a whole consultation basis, but it's a bit like when Cyril says, we can, speaks about COVID-19. It's not his thing, it's the consultation. So this determination says there will be articulation between different programs, and that's interesting because it allows for programs. Program, in my mind, could be a part qualification. It's not clear. There's no definition to unpack that yet. And qualifications, we know he's determined a qualification is 120 credits. Within, so of course, within the QCTO or the CHE or the Umalusi, there must be articulation. But between the sub-frameworks to advance the objectives of the NQF, and the objective of the NQF is progression, articulation within a quality single integrated system. So that's important, and that's why the naming of the qualifications of the QCTO qualifications, the renaming, the new names, helps with that articulation a lot. I don't think it would have been an easy conversation to get there. I can imagine some of the CHE people were not happy that their domain was being encroached, but okay, the decision has been made, thank goodness. And this is a rule. So now when a new qualification or a qualification that is up for review and is then reconstructed in the QCTO space, it will have to have clear articulation rules and pathways aligned to the purpose and the scope. So articulation is important. Some of you that know the minister, Blade, and he's around, and I think he's going to be around for another couple of years at least. Blade is all about articulation. It's very important to him. And then the qualification, the QCs must, in consulting with curriculum developers, and providers. So, you know, if you're a provider or you've got clients like me that are providers, that's a good thing, because, you know, there was a point where providers were almost excluded from any qualification developed. They must develop these articulation pathways for each qualification and part qualification. So that's interesting. So in number 9, they talk about programs. In number 11, they talk about part qualifications. Hopefully these things will be clarified in the OQSF, both within and between the sub-frameworks. So now what's going to happen is a new qualification. Let's just say an NQF level 5 professional banker. I don't know what it's going to be called. You know, I'm just in the QCTO space, professional banker qualification. When we look at what is approved about, it's not only articulation within the QCTO, but if a person's got that NQF level 5, there will have to be a statement in terms of articulation to NQF level 6 in the CHE's sub-framework and qualification. So it's not a simple thing, and I just bear it in mind, because some of us might be involved in the rewriting of, or the realigning. I mean, it's quite more than just rewriting of these qualifications. And don't forget number 11. And that means that there's going to have to be consultation with the CHE. You can't just make a statement, you know, and say, okay, it will articulate. You're going to have to go to CHE officials and say, this is what we say, and they're going to have to say, yeah, that we accept that works for us. Then number 12, very strong again. There's that word. SAQA and the Quality Councils must ensure alignment, implementation, articulation, RPL, and credit accumulation policies of all policies. So I've hammered the articulation drum enough. Let me just talk about RPL, because I think we understand CAT, but there is, we do plan to talk about the difference between RPL and CAT later on. But CAT is about getting credits for formal learning, you know, whereas RPL is getting recognition for prior non-formal or informal learning. And some of you will know that there is a national policy issued by DET on RPL. There's a strong RPL policy issued by SAQA. And then the 3 QCs have got policies. And in John's view, not an ASDSA view, in John's view, so nervous here, I don't want to be quoted as an A, but my view that there's certainly conflict between those 3 QC, the 3 Quality Council policies and the policies of SAQA and the DHET. And so that's what I like about number 12. It forces, because there's a word must here. So, you know, the boss decides, which is Blade, and SAQA is overarching. And so now we're going to see some rewriting of RPL policies by the CHE and the QCTO, no doubt.
Before you go on, just a couple of questions. One that Sylvia has raised. Number 11, so it's consultation with curriculum developers and providers. Sylvia's comment, shouldn't professional bodies such as ASDSA be included as providers? So that's the one thought. So if you can talk a little bit around that, and also talk a little bit around this, the consultation with curriculum developers and providers sounds like a massive exercise. There's a lot of stakeholders. Wow, is this feasible?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm hoping the small d for developers and the small p for providers means, in fact, all interested parties, including professional bodies. If we look at the NQF Act and we look at the SAQA policy on the recognition of professional bodies, there is a definite instruction in those laws that says the QCs must consult professional bodies recognized by SAQA. So again, you know, I see the concern there, but I'm hoping that provider here is a very loose term, and it includes professional bodies as well. What isn't here is industry. And I guess if you are in the CETA space, you're probably saying, or, you know, what about us? but I think the intention of the minister, and hopefully I'm right, is that it is wide consultation. Then the other thing is, how long will that take? We're going to get to, I know it's Sylvia's question, the time frame, and then I agree with Sylvia, whoa, how are we going to do this all? But the other issue is who's going to pay for this? Some of you will know, I was in the early 2000s, I chaired the old standards generating body for marketing, and we developed marketing qualifications, and it was voluntary. But we did, in my SGB, we had a consultant who, fortunately, the services CETA funded, Jeff Gilmore. That was Jeff. Some of you might remember Jeff. And Jeff he helped us put this together. And Jeff, hi Jeff, if he's listening, Jeff did very well out of it. He made money. And so it's not only the wide consultation and the time it will take to consult widely, because otherwise there are some qualifications the QCTO, but I think has pushed through and hasn't consulted widely enough. And now stakeholders, particularly in the financial services sector where I play a role, are saying, but these qualifications don't work for us. Can you rethink them? So there's the consultation issue. There's who's going to pay the new Jeff Gilmores, because a lot of them, Jeff I know is retired from that space, but the other people are saying, I can write QCTO qualifications. I'm skilled, and that's, lots of money. So where's the money going to come from? Because CETAs, we all know CETAs have had, because of the holiday because of COVID and the non-collection of skills development levies, CETAs are struggling for cash, so they're not cash strapped anymore. So it's a very interesting issue. And again, timeline. Okay, so let's go to timeline, because this is the crunch. So when we look at the qualifications on the OQSF, which are the qualifications that are under the control of the QCTO, the minister has determined, okay, and this is what makes it interesting, that the registration end date for pre-2009 qualifications and unit standards, because we registered unit standards as well, on the OQSF shall be 30th of June 2023. So we're in 2021, so it's 1 year. We got 22, and we got half of 23. And then all those old qualifications have to be replaced with new OQS. So what we've got is we've got roughly 24 months to deal with, and this was a figure that the SACWA official mentioned at that meeting. I won't say he was, but he said there are approximately 1,000 qualifications that have to be reviewed and rewritten and changed into the QCTO model. And so if you run them all simultaneously, 1,000 qualifications all running at the same time, that takes a lot of resource, and maybe you'll meet the deadline. So not only Sylvia, but everybody, there's the first deadline. By the 30th of June 2023, qualifications will all be in the new QCTO model using the QCTO names. But there is a phase-out period, so that second point is valid. So somebody that was a first-time learner on a, let's call it a pre-2009 qualification, or a legacy qualification, or a unit standard-based qualification, or a CETA qualification, we know what we're talking about, that old FETC level 4. They've got registration ends on the 30th of June 2024. So the ministers allowed those old qualifications to run for another year. That doesn't take the QCTO and all the role players off the hook. The new qualifications have to be ready on the 30th of June 2023. The other one, and then the last date of achievement of a pre-2009 qualification. So you're going to have taught out that qualification by 2027, which is quite a long time. But sometimes students take a bit longer, and so they've given a bit of time. So those are the dates that are for us to put in our pipe and smoke. Nobody smokes pipes anymore, but you know what I mean. We've got to get our head around. And So I've been saying to providers and professional bodies and to corporates, guys, this is a pig in, and that's why I thought this was the most important conversation to have with our members today. The first conversation. This is not just a peg in the ground. This is a solid pole which is concreted in, and so we need to somehow, with the QCTO, start to get the momentum rolling on those 1,000 qualifications, so that by 30th of June 2023, we've together as a collective got new qualifications, quality qualifications, aligned with the new QCTO model, the OQCF, in place. It is an enormous task. Andy, have I been clear there with the dates? I mean, because this is really the crux of this this talk.
And I think you have, you know, and what is also going through my mind, I also have been working in the financial sector. So I know that, for example, there's a new occupational certificate, the financial advisor one, which is meant to take over from a bunch of earlier qualifications, but the industry is not satisfied with it and would prefer the earlier qualifications, and the new qualification is in the process of revision. So it's also saying to me, just because there's an occupational certificate, you can't necessarily rest easy. They, in the financial sector, they have a big problem. And I know, you know, we're talking about articulation. So if you want to have something in place and it's being revised now, it's got to be consulted on widely. This sounds, and there's no money. It sounds a very big ask.
Yeah, Andy, I agree with you, and I don't want to be negative. What I'm trying to do is encourage the entire post-school education and training community to accept this and to move forward. But it is a big task. But let me just come back to those that one issue. Yeah, there are some qualifications. There's some banking ones as well that I know of that were written, that now that they are ready to be taken to market, the industry, the banking sector or the financial service sector saying, oh, we don't actually like this. And so consultation has been a bit of a problem. There's a project manager qualification, 240 credits level 6 also, that is struggling for uptake. So for me, it's not only those qualifications that the SAQA official spoke about, which is the 1,000 unit standard-based qualifications that we have to now transform. But there are, I agree with you, Andy, there are current QCTO qualifications that aren't getting the take-up that they should have, that also need to be relooked. It is a huge task, huge task, and we don't have a lot of money. But here are the dates. The same dates apply to Umalusi. There is some of you might, I don't really know the schooling or the Umalusi space well. I apologize for that. I really concentrate on CHE or higher and TVET space, but the same dates apply. There's work to be done there, I know that, but not as much, not by far as much. And the nice thing, sorry, I can't read now. I've got this stupid line in my way here. The College Councils must, with this material, I don't know. What does 20 say? Andy, can you read what number 20 says? Got a little block.
QCs must ensure that the accreditation periods for the pre-2009 qualifications coincide with this ministerial determination. Okay,
so basically it is, you can't argue that, yes, but when SAQA registered this on the NLRD, it went to 2025. So what will happen is SAQA will just punch buttons and they will align the current qualifications to these determination dates. Okay, that was important. So I can just go to this and then, because I know we've run out of time already, but hopefully it's been useful. All qualifications on the NQF must be aligned to the NQF level descriptors. That's very interesting by the 30th of June 2023 to ensure coherence. And so I leave you the question in terms of level descriptors. Andy and I spoke earlier, you know, if I said, Andy, if I wrote down what I thought was NQF level 5, and Andy wrote down what he thought was NQF level 5, we might have differences. So I think getting to understand level descriptors is an important thing that we're going to have to get our heads around. And so 21 says that. And 21, you'll also see the last 3 words, he talks about parity, comparability, and parity of esteem. So it's this articulation thing. So you've got level 6 in the QCTO space. You know, the CHE has got a level 6. What is the comparability? What is the parity of esteem? And that's why the level descriptors are important. So 21 is a strong, I think, positive signal. And then we have 22, which Sylvia, I guess, is going to be allowed. Because we put these huge pegs in the ground, and then the minister says that he, nobody else, only he may, on the advice of SACWA and a Quality Council, public exceptions on the determination from time to time. So I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to, because some of you will know that the QCTO came into being in 2009. It's now 2021, 12 years later, roughly. And if John's view again, I still think the majority of education in the trades and occupation space is linked to old unit standard-based qualifications. The QCTO qualifications haven't got to the stage where they dominate. And so this is a message to say we have to get rid of the past and we have to embrace the future. But we have at least 1,000 qualifications to deal with. And so 22 is allowed so that the minister can hopefully take the pressure off if necessary. So thank you. I don't know, Andy, any questions, any thoughts? I'd love feedback on whether this was useful. Are there questions there from anybody, Andy, that we can deal with?
Nothing in addition, a couple of comments, but nothing in addition that's a question. John, thank you very much. It's been very interesting. The legislation is usually pretty dry, and I must admit I hadn't picked up the points that you've made until you made them now. So thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. I'm sorry for going a bit longer than I expected. These are intended to be short, sharp, and informative. And in 2 weeks' time, we're going to look at the QCTO's OQSF, not the new one that's published yet because it isn't out yet, but I'm going to look at the one that was published in March last year, because when I did chat to some QCTO people, they gave me a strong indication that to a large extent, the new OQSF from March 2020 will be the basis for the one that will be published soon. So let's look at it. Let's get to grips with it. And then we move forward. Thank you, guys, and have a good day. Cheers. Andy, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Cheers then.